Hi, my name is Ryan Larson, and the story that I chose for my read aloud was called Stone Fox, and it's by John Reynolds Gardner, illustrated by Marcia Sewall. This is the title page of the story, and the strategy that I used here was searching for and using different kinds of information, along with the strategy of making predictions. On the cover page, there is a boy and a dog, which seems to be his because they look like they're close. You can tell they're close because they're standing close together and the boy is smiling. Also, there's a farmhouse in the back. This told me that the setting for the story is probably on a farm or a rural location. And it also tells me that I predicted that the boy and dog are characters in the story. Page 3. The strategies that I used here were making predictions and making connections. It says one day grandfather wouldn't get out of bed. He just lay there and stared at the ceiling and looked sad. At first little Willie thought he was playing. Little Willie lived with his grandfather on a small potato farm in Wyoming. It was hard work living on a potato farm, but it was also a lot of fun, especially when grandfather felt like playing. On this page, when grandfather would not get out of bed, I kind of jumped to the conclusion that he was sick or seriously ill. And being that he is elderly and that he is a potato farmer, which is hard work physically, led to this assumption. A little bit is described of the relationship between Willie and his grandfather. It talks about how one time grandfather dressed up as a scarecrow in the garden, and it took little Willie an hour to catch on. It sounds like they had a good time because they both laughed. I kind of came to the conclusion from this that Willie's probably living with grandfather alone on the farm together. And I kind of made this connection because of what I know as an adult from kind of observing the way children relate to their parents versus a typical grandparent. Page 4. The strategy that I used here was synthesizing new information. It was important to learn how strict grandfather's normal routine is. It says grandfather always got up real early in the morning, so early that it was still dark outside. He would make a fire, then would make breakfast and call little Willie. Hurry up, or you'll be eating with the chickens, he would say. Then he would throw his head back and laugh. That talks about how one time Willie actually went back to sleep and he woke up and found his plate out in the chicken coop, and it was picked clean. He never slept late again until this morning because grandfather had forgotten to call him. That's when little Willie discovered that grandfather was still in bed. And little Willie assumes grandfather is playing another trick. I thought it was important to learn how strict his normal routine was. The information from that made me want to learn, maybe really wondering why grandfather would not get out of bed. Also, the information from this page adds to the seriousness of the situation. On page 5, the strategies that I used for analyzing the text and remembering information. Analyzing the text. The author's style of writing is very much written from the point of view of Willie's character. And the overall tone of the story and the dialogue, I thought were realistic to the situation from the point of view of a boy Willie's age. Remembering information. On this page, the dog Searchlight is introduced, and I remembered from the cover the black dog, and so then I knew that was Searchlight. On page 6, the strategies that I used are a bridging inference and also making connections. Here the doctor's talking, and she says, probably just another trick. Nothing to worry about. And then from that, I got that the doctor knew of Grandpa's history of playing tricks, and that kind of told me that the doctor probably knows Willie and Grandpa very well. And I kind of made a connection to what I know in the real world. And I know that rural doctors usually have few patients, and they kind of tend to know them very well on a more personal level than, say, a doctor in a city would. On page 7, the strategies that I used were making predictions and monitoring and checking. My belief that the doctor knew grandfather very well was verified here. The doctor says, "Your grandfather went to bed without playing his harmonica?" she asked. Little Willie nodded. That told me that kind of verified that she knew the family well, because she knew about Grandpa's nightly routine, playing the harmonica. One thing I didn't understand on this page was what a palomino was, so I actually had to go and check and find out. I could tell it had something to do with a horse, but I didn't know exactly what. I don't have much of a background on horses or actually farms in general. So I actually had to look for that online, and what I found was a palomino is a type of color on a horse, or a coat of color on a horse. Pages 8 and 9. The strategies that I used here was thinking critically. On the left, there's a picture, and the picture is of the doctor and Willie looking at Grandpa, along with searchlight kind of like on Grandpa's chest. The doctor doesn't look frantic to me, which kind of made me wonder if the situation was. Well, the doctor didn't think the situation was really serious. Also, she starts asking Willie a lot of questions that don't really have anything to do with physical health. Like she asks like a question about how the crop is doing, and then she also asks if Grandpa owes any money. This kind of made me think the doctor might not know what was wrong with Grandpa, and was maybe looking for other problems that might explain what's wrong. Page 10. On page 10, the strategy that I used was synthesizing new information. I learned a lot of new things here because all along, I just assumed that Grandpa had something medically wrong with him. It had me kind of feeling worried and sad for Willie. But here we learned that's not the case. It says, "You mean he's not sick?" The doctor replies, "Medically, he's as healthy as an ox. Could live to be 100 if he wanted to." "I don't understand," little Willie said. The Doc Smith took a deep breath, and then she began, "It happens when a person gives up on life for whatever reason. Starts up here in the mind first, then spreads to the body. It's a real sickness, all right, and there's no cure except in the person's own mind." That actually really surprised me, and it made me really want to know why he would be so upset that he didn't want to live anymore. Because it seemed like his life was going well, and I really wanted to read more of the story and find out what happened. On page 11, it continued with this information where I was still kind of like taking in the fact that he was so upset that he was making himself sick. Little Willie says that he'll find out. "I'll find out. I'll find out what's wrong and make it better. You'll see. I'll make Grandfather want to live again." As the reader, this created a lot of curiosity. I felt I, along with Billy, really wanted to find out what was wrong with Grandpa. One strategy I used here too was analyzing the text. I thought it was interesting how the author of this book wrote the dialogue. I thought the author did a really, really good job writing from Willie's point of view. I thought it put the reader in Willie's shoes, and it felt like I was in the story with him, seeing it through his eyes. And I really wanted to find out what was wrong with Grandpa. Overall, I thought this was a great story, and it really left me wanting to find out what happens next.